All right, this is the special council meeting for the city of Mason City. It's September 15th, 2017. It is noon. We're in the City Hall second floor, conference room A in Mason City, Iowa. We'll call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all members are present with the exception of Mr. Adams. Is there a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Schickel.
Second.
And thank you, Ms. Solberg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, number one, administrator recommending approval resolution 1, approving the minimum development agreement, development requirements, competitive criteria and procedures for disposition of certain property located within the urban renewal area. 2, determining that the proposal submitted by Mason City Foundation satisfies the offering requirements and declaring the intent of the city to enter into a purchase, sale, and development agreement by and between the city of Mason City, Iowa and Mason City Foundation in the event that no competing proposals are submitted, and soliciting competing proposals. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schickel. Thank you, Mr. Hickey. And before we open this up and we kick this over, just a few quick comments. I want to thank Brent, Mr. Traub, Mr. Schreck, and Allers, and of course, Mason City Foundation for working on this. Just for the public, this has been a significant amount of work, to say the very least. Mr. Traub, can you, before we kick this off to council members, can you give us a brief synopsis of where we're at, what this means, so we can inform our discussion?
Okay, well, my first general comments are that both agreements that you have before you are the agreements that we presented last to the individuals, and we have that red line versions that go back and forth. That means we make changes, they make changes. This is our last version back. We do not have final agreements with either party, but we are close, other than a few items that need to be addressed with each one, and we can continue to work on that. But in order to meet the timelines that are necessary in order for us to have a public hearing on approval of these on October 17th, we need to motion to basically approve setting the hearings and the competitive bidding locations. So that covers, is true for both of the development agreements. Reference the Mason City Foundation, because that's the question at hand first. The basic principles of the foundation agreements are that the city of Mason City will provide $1.5 million worth of money for the construction of a new museum. $300,000 of that 1.5 will be provided to them up front after approval of the election, and we go through our process of selling bonds. Our justification when we looked at that was, and this was true based on some advice from our attorney, that has been done with other nonprofit organizations that typically don't have a large bankroll and have the ability to cash flow a major project like this without having done a major capital campaign prior to that. And so they will need assistance in order to get their project rolling. So what we're intending to do is provide $300,000 of upfront money to Music Man Square to begin the construction project on the new museum. Their maximum amount that they'll receive will be $1.5 million, and then as the project continues, they will submit invoices showing the amount of work that they've completed, and then we will pay them back for the amount that they expended. That way we're giving them some money up front in order to get the project rolling, but to continue it, they have to complete work. And so there are many timelines and requirements that they have to meet along the way, but that's the new museum. The same is basically true of the renovation of the existing museum into a conference convention space. The city will provide up to $3 million worth of money towards the renovation of the existing museum into a conference and convention space. And we will provide up to $500,000 after approval of a favorable election to that. Now, along with that, the project that is not their project, but is mentioned in their agreement, is the city's construction of a skywalk. We have allocated up to $2.5 million for construction of the skywalk between the two buildings, between their building and their existing building and the new museum building, based on the design that we have. The other benefit that the city will do, which is why we have the 30-day requirement, is the city will sell the land for $1 to the Mason City Foundation where the new museum will sit. whenever you do such a sale, give to an organization, private entity, you have to have a competitive bidding requirement, so that's why we're at where we're at. So those are the basic tenets. There are many other requirements and regulations and requirements regarding defaults and how all those roll. As you review the document, you'll be able to see those. But those are the basic tenets of the agreement with the Mason City Foundation.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Schickel.
Well, Brett, thank you for your good work. I know there's been a lot of negotiations, and this particular item is a procedural item that allows us to place this on the ballot, so therefore I move approval.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Hickey, I believe.
Good.
Anybody else? Mr. Lee, Ms. Solberg? Again, I want to emphasize this is purely procedural at this point in time. No further comment? Well, no, I'll call the roll. Ms. Schickel?
Yes.
Mr. Hickey?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Solberg?
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 2, Administrator recommending approval resolution fixing date for a public hearing on the proposal to enter into a purchase, sale, and development agreement with the Mason City Foundation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Schickel. Thank you, Mr. Lee. This is essentially the same discussion, although I will provide the opportunity for comment. Ms. Schickel.
Yes, same thing. This sets a public hearing, which is obviously a good thing. In the preliminary agreement, I like the timelines and the requirements for obtaining money that the Music Man Square Foundation is required to comply with, and so therefore I move approval.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Lee.
No comment.
Ms. Solberg.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Hickey.
One comment that I'll
Please.
add,
Go.
and I should have said this with regards to both development agreements as well. Since this is our draft and we're still in a process, we'll make this available to the public, but we have a requirement that they sign for drawing that in case there are changes that are made to the agreement, and when we get to the final agreement, we will need to resend out anyone that's drawn because they may be a bidder, and we want to ensure that they have the final document once we have the final document language. So that's true also of the Gatehouse Mason City one.
Absolutely. Good, and that's a good addition. Anybody, does that change anybody's comments? Didn't figure it would. Ms. Schickel.
Nothing further.
My apologies. This is the vote. Ms. Schickel.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Solberg.
Yes.
Mr. Hickey.
Yes.
Carries. All right. I'll read this, I'll get a motion, then we'll have Mr. Trout open up again. Administrator recommending approval resolution approving the minimum development requirements, competitive criteria, and procedures for disposition of certain property located within the urban renewal area to determine the proposal submitted by Gatehouse Mason City LLC satisfies the offering requirements and declaring the intent of the city to enter into a purchase, sale, and development agreement by and between the city of Mason City, Iowa, and Gatehouse Mason City LLC in the event that no competing proposals are submitted. And 3, soliciting competing proposals. Does the Mayor Pro Tem have a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Trump.
So with the Gatehouse Development Agreement, I'll cover some of the basic terms. The Gatehouse Development Agreement sets out that a $4.2 million loan would be provided to Mason City Gatehouse, or Gatehouse Mason City, excuse me, to construct their hotel. The loan would be provided on a drawdown basis. In other words, as project work is completed on the hotel, he would submit that information to the city regarding expenses that he's incurred in the construction, anything related, architectural, those types of things. He would then be able to be reimbursed, and it'll be reimbursed on a percentage basis. 60% by his primary lender, 30% by the city, and 10% of his monies. And that will be reimbursed until the full $4.2 million is eventually requested. So that would be the max that we would give them. So it would just be drawdown. He'd have a balance that he would be able to draw on by submitting claims on work that's been completed with the project. The interest cost on the high end, this is a taxable general obligation urban renewal bond, which increases the interest rate In addition, Kevin informed me today that it's what we call a non-bank qualified loan and that is strictly based on the fact that the city will sell over $10 million of bonds in a year. That changes the category. In the end, we're using a 4.5% interest rate. It's considerably more than we do with our normal GO bonds, but it is also the way the rules typically work with the sell. It increases the interest. 4.5 may be high, but we're using that as our high number, so we ensure that we're not cutting it short. But we're looking at an interest cost to the city of about $1.98 million over the 20-year life of the loan. So in a sense, that's important because that really becomes the actual incentive that we're providing to them. And that's in today's dollars, not what would be worth in that repayment amount. Gatehouse, Mason City would repay the principal amount of $4.2 million at the end of 20 years. And so that would be how that would work. City again will provide the land for $1 as part of the arrangement as well, rather than having it have a purchase price of fair market value. So that is the basic tenets of the arrangement as it stands right now.
Before I move on here, in regards to the incentive, it's a $1.98 million over 20 years. We're also supplying, the city of Mason City is also supplying Gatehouse Capital our constitutional debt limit in that amount of $4.2 million for the land also. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's the basic things, and obviously there are many, many details regarding when he has to start different parts of the project. There's timelines, everything from 90 days to 6 months to when the final completion date is, when it has to be done by, what constitutes a default. He'll eventually need to provide us the number of employees that will be working at the facility. And so there's still some steps that, in that regards, he hasn't provided that, and that would be part that needs to be entered into it as well. But those are, it's 98 pages long with all attachments. So it's a very detailed document.
And this is the version that we supplied to him yesterday at, I believe, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it was provided about 6 o'clock last night, 6:30 last night.
Mr. Hickey.
So you put a lot of time and energy into this, obviously.
Yeah, well, I have to give, Eric has been very involved as well, and so I appreciate his involvement as well.
Okay. I'm comfortable with the product you, the mayor, Mr. Schreck, yourself have done. I know you've had Adler's law firm.
Yes, Jason Komisky from all
working on this, and work you guys have provided. Seems to me there's a reasonable drawdown to the schedule to make the project successful. Can you explain how this is going to protect the taxpayers with the project?
It will, because I feel it's important, and I think council has expressed this to me in the past, is that rather than providing upfront money in order to do the project, that we provide it as work is completed. It's been used in many other projects. There are some grants that work the same way, where you can get a certain amount of work done, and as you do, then you can request that money from the grant. And I think it protects the city because we ensure that work is being completed on the project. As our money is going out, we know what we're getting, and that work is moving forward, and that things are getting completed.
Okay. So your recommendation would be to move forward?
Yes, I think that with the agreement as it sits now, we can move forward. Obviously, we need to get, make sure that as we move forward and get final approval from Gatehouse Mason City on these terms. If they're not agreeable, then we'll have to continue negotiations.
This is probably the best route that we can do moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And we've had conversations in the past as we started establishing the framework of what this agreement would look like, was that we weren't going to provide money up front. We took out of the pre-development agreement any type of management, developer's fee, the home office fee that was initially in there. We've taken those out.
Financing.
What?
Financing.
Right, the financing. So those types of things were items that council wanted to not see in the development agreement, and so we worked on trying to make sure and hold the line, and whatever terms are in this agreement to reflect that those developer fees are not in there, and that the money is being paid to the city, being paid to gatehouse as a complete work rather than being paid up front.
Has Mr. Bocci provided the pre-development agreement yet?
No, we have not received the pre-development agreement. As the letter that I provided you from Marty Collins shows, they're expecting to produce that soon. The date mentioned was potentially by next Friday. But we don't have that firm, but that was the date that was mentioned, is potentially by next Friday we would have the pre-development plan.
That's all I have for now.
The one thing I would say to tag on to that in regards to Brent's comments is that this is a work product that we feel comfortable that we can go out and sell the public and be reasonably assured that this protects the taxpayers and gets the job done in the end. And that was the big key. How do we protect the taxpayers' money that we're going to potentially outlay after we use our constitutional debt limit, et cetera, and still get a return? So we feel very comfortable with that. Mr. Lee.
Yeah, and just again reiterate, I think you and the mayor and Chad and Jason have done a remarkable job, and really the amount of time, it may seem like a lot, but I know the last couple of days have been, yeah, I've just been pushed back and forth and phone calls and emails and all that, so
6 to 7 hours each
I've seen
day.
your car here.
thanks for hitting it,
Yeah.
staying in there and staying in the batter's box, so to speak. Yeah, from where we were and where we are, I think we've done a good job, because he did, the agreement originally, and I was gonna say that is, what he wanted up front and the different, the 400,000, all that's been taken out. I'm glad you held the line on that, and I think it's creative with the drawdown process, because I know it's important for him up front, but us, we were not gonna give them money up front without some kind of contingencies, and so I think that was a great way to go about kind of protecting the taxpayer and the city. Other than that, like I said, we still gotta fine tune a couple things, but I'm content and happy with where we're at right now, especially with all the work you guys have done.
I'll toss one more caveat into what you just said, and you reminded me. I'm kind of surprised we haven't done this. Brent and I had approached the Chamber and Chamber Foundation because we were missing a guarantor. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned this. We were missing a guarantor. In other words, this security on the money. And they have, as I understand it, they are prepared to secure the entire project, that 4.2. So
Yeah.
we should thank them.
Yes, most definitely.
Ms. Solberg, ever get your hand in the air?
Well, not-
You were done, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I didn't have my hand in the air, but that's okay. But I was wondering about the chamber too, because I thought we had kind of visited about that. But thanks again for all the hard work. It's really, apparent in what's coming through here in the last couple of days, so thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ms. Solberg.
Nothing further.
Anybody have a response? All right, seeing nothing further. Mr. Hickey,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Schickel,
Yes.
Ms. Solberg.
Yes.
Number 4, administrator is recommending approval of resolution fixing date for a public hearing on the proposal to enter into a purchase, sale, and development agreement with Gatehouse Mason City LLC. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Lee, Mr. Schickel, Mr. Lee,
No comment.
Ms. Schickel.
This is setting a hearing on the gatehouse development proposal, and I approve it.
Solberg further? Mr. Hickey? Again, purely procedural. Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Schickel,
Yes.
Ms. Solberg,
Yes.
Mr. Hickey.
Yes.
All right, folks. Just a quick reminder, if you want a copy of the agreement, again, I just want to reiterate for legal terms, because we have to supply it for competitive bidding on each one. You need to come to City Hall, come and talk to the clerk, or the deputy clerk can help you, I believe Ms. Stecker can help you, sign in on the log, and the reason we do that is because legally, if we end up with another working draft that is in consideration, we need to supply it to everybody who has a draft, so. Do you want to add anything else on? I mean,
Nope.
I've got that.
And I have a
nailed,
few
so-
copies already printed if there are individuals.
So if
that
someone
would
wants to
like
sign out,
We can make more
We
if
can,
needed.
absolutely. So, lastly, I just want to say, seriously, you can't say enough about how much good work has been put in this to get this to this point. After 7.5 years of doing this, it is remarkable how, I know it looks like an item on this piece of paper. I get that, and we've had a 20-minute meeting, and for every minute, I can't even start to count the hours that has been put into it, so, by all parties. So, thank you, there's a lot of passion in this, and hopefully we'll get a good product for Mason City, so.
Thank you, Mayor and staff.
Meantime, we are adjourned, go have a good weekend, and go Jets.